are live. Hello, everyone. This is you guys from the It's a Rap with Raymond Sales podcast. Here at my official book signing, and with me today is my friend, sister, cousin, Kenni York, who's going to be conducting the interview. This is being broadcasted live on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. So if you have any questions, somebody may or may not be alive in the chat, but we'll try to answer the questions live. And again, thank you all for being here. And again, my cousin Kenni, so Kenni, I guess it's always.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody in Facebook land and everybody that's in the room with us. So we do have audience participation. So if you see me looking this way, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just giving some love to the people. And for those of you who are with us in person, if you have a question at any time, feel free to stop me because this isn't about me. It's about our author of the hour, Coach Sam. So if you have questions, we want to make sure that we get your questions as well as mine. But before we ask any question, I have one question off script. Coach Sam, where'd that come from?
Well, if you're in this area, a lot of people know. Some of the people in the audience know. I coach YMCA basketball and AAU travel team for over 20 years. And so people started calling me Coach Sam. And they've been calling me that all along. And then all these years, I thought some of them 30, 40, still calling me Coach Sam. And so when I was looking for a pen name, I guess you can call it my adopted daughter, Tamisha. I need a pen name. I really do need a pen name. She said, Coach Sam, that's your pen name. That's what everybody calls you. So shout out to Ty for doing that for me. She's a Coach Sam, so that's what Coach Sam did.
Coach Sam, okay. All right, so he never complains by Coach Sam. Let's get into it, shall we? All right. So I'm hoping that most of you have read the book already, and if you haven't, shame on you. I'm going to need you to go ahead and pick that up. But first question, forgive me, I'm reading straight from my scripted questions. I want to make sure I get everything correct, okay? So you write extensively about the unique bond you shared with Xavier, describing how he taught you about trust and faith without speaking a word. How did learning to listen to your heart change you as not only a father, but generally as a person?
It literally changed my whole perspective of life and how I view things, and the importance of communication and the importance of the things like he taught me, like trust. Because before there was something that I took for granted. You know, if somebody trusts you or you didn't, but I didn't know how important it was for someone to absolutely trust you in everything that goes on with them, between you and them. And it just changed my perspective, and it made it more important to me that people could trust me. You know, but I was not to say nonchalant about it. You know, like I said, I don't try to prove nothing if I am who I am. And, you know, and when I seen the trust that he had in me, I mean, he had it with nobody else, and that was the thing that I realized how important that was. I said, okay, so in that regard, he changed that perspective to something that's put me on a trajectory there.
I love that. So do you feel like your sense of trust has changed?
When you say sense of trust,
Like the way that you determine how you trust somebody or how much trust you give based off your relationship.
no, my mom had a saying. She said, everybody starts out with her 100%. You can add to that, or you can take it away. By the time you get to be 50%, I can take your leave. That's pretty much how I take it.
There you go.
That's pretty much how I do it.
Okay, I love that. You start at 100. It's on you what happened.
Yeah.
All right. In the manuscript, you describe a special place where only he and I, so only you and Xavier. And this was invoked whenever Xavier extended his hand to you. That place where only you and he existed. How are you keeping that place alive?
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I keep it alive when I'm driving.
Take your time.
I look over to the right where he would be. And be that elevator, say, I just feel this coolness, calmness when I look over this. said, when he stuck that big put my hand in it, and it was like, okay, whatever it is that's on your mind, whatever it is that's got the wrinkles in your head, it's me and you right here. And in that place, as I said before, time didn't exist. I didn't have no where I had to be. I didn't even care where we were going. The only thing that was important for him and for me was the smiling, the laughing. Of course, whatever song he played on repeat at that time. So, but that place, it's still, I haven't been back to it since then, but I got memories of it. You know, like I say, because I used to drive by myself because, you know, I think my wife might have been on the since, you know, and that's not by design. It's just the way it happens.
And writing the book, how's it been for you?
Well, a lot of people, I'm kind of I pretty much keep on. So whatever is going on, I pretty much try to work it out. My sibling, Roxanne said I've always been stoic. And a friend of mine, who I went to school with, first grade all the way to 12, he said I always stay on the heel. And that was because I think things had to happen earlier. Find my name today. And it kept me, you know, right there. You know, like, what else? At 1970, no therapy. Not 1970. But that was my hero. And then for me, for him to be, you know, taken away, you know, in the event that it was taken away, I had to figure out my stuff on my own, which is where they keep my own counsel. Uh, I had to figure some stuff out on my own. Nobody stopped me and said what had happened. You know, death is not a subject that you talk about. You know, and again, you know, prior to the events leading up to his death, uh, there was a whole series of stuff going on too. And again, I was left to figure that out on my own because nobody came into the room saying, because our quick story, uh, he was at Everhart Sons, you know, laying in state, as they call it. And I would walk by them. And this is me at 8 thinking, I'm like, you know what? Because I seen TV, how mouth resuscitation comes. And I said, well, ain't nobody looking. I'm going to go there and get my damn mouth resuscitation. Okay. You know, but that's what it comes
So y'all think that's the defining moment, but what I can appreciate is you take a in this particular situation that you passion, that's the most people, you know, who may come have similar experiences.
Well, that was one of the things that I always talked about with the autism thing, that I always look at my son as a trailblazer because we were blazing trails because people didn't know a whole lot about autism. But again, he was diagnosed in 1994. That was one of the things that we did. I dove head first. I tried to find everything I could about autism because I didn't quite understand what autism was. And then looking back, uh, it had been in my face the whole time. And similar experience because when I was, you know, going through some, when I was like 10, there was this autistic person that stayed next door to us. We didn't know what they were. So we just let him talk. And his caregiver was his dad, Jack. And he used to be so patient with Baby Jack. They call it Baby Jack. He used to be so patient with him. And Baby Jack had like a pointed nose. And when and a group of, you know, kids from the neighborhood was going around, and he would always be shaving outside. So he was outside shaving. And he had a pointed nose. And when he pulled his nose up, you know, to shave up under there, everybody started laughing except me. But I was like, I didn't see anything funny about that. But what I did notice was the patience that Mr. Ellington was showing with his son. And throughout my life, I used to wonder why I always would reference back to that. Why in the world do I always seem to bring that up when I hear about autism. I wondered that. So fast forward, when Xavier was born and diagnosed with autism, I didn't realize it at the time, but God had been preparing me for this all my life. He had been showing me what it was going to take. Because, like I said, none of what happened surprised to God. God already knew what was going to be playing. He already knew what I needed, and He was giving me in doses, even at the age of 10. At the age of 10. So when I got when Xavier was born, and that was one of the things that people always say, you're so patient with, and it was because I knew that's what it was going to take. So that's in a nutshell. That's pretty much what that was. Throughout my life, all stuff that was sprinkled in. I wonder why could I remember? And then it came down to the point where I was saying, and a lot of stuff. Some of it came after he passed, but a lot of it came during while he was alive. Well, it's
Well, for those of you who are with us, and even those of you watching, if you know Sam and if you've ever seen him with Xavier, he's like patient on 1,000, like so gentle with him. Okay, was it Roxanne that you were eating?
that they'll bring John Bean. He always say,
That's Roxanne, okay. You mentioned that success on the autism spectrum often comes from unconventional forms and challenge the standard metrics of therapy like therapy. How did watching Xavier do things like playing with phone or playing with computers redefine progress for you and your family?
It's interesting that you say that because progress in our school system is a standard. You see what I'm saying? A, B, C, D. Okay. And with Xavier, all of it, anybody that's on autism, there is no such thing as they can unless when you don't give them an opportunity. And that was one of the things that I always advocated for Xavier because they used to assume that he couldn't do stuff because they heard that word autism. And of course, that was a stigma that you got to get rid of that. Don't just put him in a box and he can't do it because he's autistic. A lot of times, because he's autistic, is why he can do something. For instance, with the computer, that blew my mind. How he did when I brought that computer home. It was a used one. It blew my mind because his sister's probably she's 5 years old, and so he was 7, so she was around 12. So and I would see these notepads, and of course, with nothing but cars, Acura, BMW, Mercedes, Aston Martin, all that stuff. I thought it was Carlito typing there, but it was him, and I didn't believe it when I saw Carlito. I was trying to give me a message because I figured she's getting ready to drive. So she's 12, 13, 14. So she's thinking about driving. And of course, at the time, I owned a lane. I had a lane at that time. And she was like, and I was like, you trying to, that's not me, Dad. She said, that's lane. And I'm like, yeah, right. Sure. And so then I started seeing stuff like, because the shopping center that we used to go to is called Colonial 18 up in Lawrenceville. Movie theater, Home Depot, TJ Maxx, Marshalls, Ross. Then I saw a list of all that. And then I was like, what the world Carlita be doing this? Again, I'm still not thinking that this is Xavier thinking it's Carlita doing it. And then I said, what is this all about? She said, Dad, I'm telling you, that ain't me. That's Xavier. Couldn't believe it. So one day I came home early. And, going through the house and doing this. Xavier knows what he's been doing. When I walked in, and there he was on that computer with 2 hands, typing all those words that I had been seeing and printing out. Quick story, and I don't know, 2 hands. I paid my way to a bachelor's degree. I can't type with 2 hands, but I did it for a bachelor's degree in journalism. But anyway, Xavier knew how to change the color of fonts, change the font style, And at that time, that ain't nobody but God. That can be nobody but God. The funny story, my brother Dale, because he was well president, they was crazy about it. They had invited us up to his house for Thanksgiving. And so he said, well, don't worry about it. I got Xavier on the computer set up by itself, but I don't want to mess with mine. I said, okay. So we get up there, of course, they makes a beeline for him. He said, oh, I got you right here. I call him B. I got you right here, B. Come on in. So he went in there, and Xavier had changed the screensaver. But we didn't know. And so get home, 2 o'clock in the morning, Dale's calling me. And I'm like, what in the, I said, what's going on? Get up. Get up. If I don't you on the field, I said, well, let me tell you what your son done did. He said, my wife talking about, had me thinking somebody done broke in the house. She waiting for somebody in the house. And I told her, ain't nobody in the house. And she said, somebody in the house. So he said, then he heard it. And he said he had a bat, walking through the house with a bat. And then he heard it, the closer he got to the room, the computer where Xavier was, he heard, and what he had done was change the screen. So you remember the skin diver, the diver that used to go down and he come back up? That's what they were hearing. They thought somebody was he had changed the screen to that diver. And then scared his wife like he made it. So it had to be done. But that was a pathway for us to communicate. That was one of the joys of his life. And so, I was made sure that he had what he needed. Big printer, computer, all that, tablets, all of that became, form of communication. And of course, he translated over to the school, they had like a communication board too. And he was a whiz at it because, already real person, what it did. That was really amazing for that to happen. That really.
You mentioned the school. Let's talk about advocacy. There were some times when Xavier was excluded from some things. Talk to us about advocating for him, but also being sure to keep him safe.
Exactly. And a lot of it was stemmed from the fact that because he was so big, and Xavier was always like 3 times the size of his schoolmates. And, some of them, and most of it would be, if we do white kids, they were afraid of him because he was so big, but what they didn't understand, he wasn't going to hurt or flee. He was not. He was just, that gentle giant. But what they would do sometimes is like when they would go out, because sometimes they do what they call community trips. They would go to Walmart, or they go to Home Depot, or they take the group there. And they would call and say, well, we're going to such and such tomorrow. Would it be possible for you to leave Xavier there? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Man, leave him at home. Leave him at home. No, absolutely not. I said, what do you need? I said, do you need me to come and be a chaperone? You need me to go anywhere? I said, I'll do that. I said, but you're not going to leave my son. You're not going to exclude my son from anything. And so that's what would happen. We would go, and they would, of course, I was the chaperone. They sat with me and all that good stuff. But you have to, and that's another thing with the IEP meetings. What I used to try to tell them, what you guys don't understand, it's okay if you don't know. We're all here to figure it out. Because a lot of that stuff was not complicated at all. It was just simple. Say, for instance, he loved newspapers. And of course, the bus stops right there in front of the newspaper stand. And of course, he sees one and they trying to stop him. Again, he's 6'4", 347 pounds. It's going to take a lot to stop him if he just wanted one newspaper. So in the IEP meeting, they were talking about, that used to start off as, hey, makes him have a bad day, when he can't get that newspaper. And I said, is it possible if you could let him off before you got to the newsstand? Because if he doesn't see it, he doesn't want it. And I knew that. And they were like, you think that'll work? I said, try. So the next IEP meeting, of course, they bring it up and they say, yes, that works. That's not genius. That's common sense. And listening to it in an IEP meeting, because like I told him, just if he doesn't see it, he doesn't want it. But if he sees it, he thinks he's supposed to have it because that was his thing was Sunday morning, Sunday paper, sitting in the bed together. He got the funnies and the advertisement, of course, I'm reading the rest of it. And that's what he wanted. So that was his thing. So when he saw it, he may be lying for it. But like I said, if he didn't see it, he didn't want it. And the communication between the schools, it's something that you have to be consistent with. Because I would just show up. I would just show up. And of course, Mr. Hudson, how you doing today? You got an appointment? No. Does Mr. Stephen say no, you coming? Not unless he's psychic. Not unless he's psychic. Well, what can we do for ourselves? Well, we can see how it's supposed to do. You know, and like again, if he didn't see me, he was fine. But if he saw me, I had to take him home. I knew that. I knew that. So, but yeah.
Well, I do commend you as parent. I do commend you for being present all the time, not just the IEP meeting, but also during the IEP meeting and having a voice. A lot of times, and I'm there to put it out there, when I talk to my parents who have children who maybe have autism or ADHD, they don't know first thing about what's going on with the IEP plan on the Bible board. And maybe even not show up to those meetings that are held annually, but you have a right as a parent for your voice to be heard because you are your child's first advocate.
Absolutely, and it's kind of doubled down with the nonverbal too as well. But the thing about the IEP meeting is, like you said, it's a misconception. Shout out to Apostle Chandler from Kingdom Cultures. He and I put together an IEP workshop. We've done IEP workshop to let people know exactly what an IEP meeting is, the tools that you need, the verbiage that you need to talk to people. And another thing I always try to tell people, I try to tell them is immerse yourself in the American Disability Act. Those two hand in hand will get you everything that you need. Because I can tell you how many people have come to me, for help and for guidance and resources and stuff like that, and they've been told that this didn't exist. But now we don't do that. When in fact, by law, but they didn't know that. By all they heard was we don't do that, and they thought that was the end of it. Of course, they got re-educated and went back and got the kids and the young adults the help that they need.
Very important to know your rights as a parent. When you get that workshop going, make sure you allow me that information so I can provide it to other people that need. Before I ask any other questions, just a reminder, if anyone in the audience has a question, please stop me, raise your hand, wave at us or something so we can catch you. I want to make sure that everyone's questions are answered. Oh, hey. Next time y'all raise it high.
Raise it high. But before you go any further, let me back up a bit. When you first realized or was told that he was autistic, what was your reaction? Because I think you had said initially you knew nothing whatsoever about autism. What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was that I knew that his quality of life was going to be very dependent upon how I handled this. Because in the family setting that we had, everybody was like, okay, what do you do? How are we going to handle this? And again, his mom was the first one, Jacqueline Price, she was the one that insisted that something was not right. Because when you talk about finding autism, people try to look at it and think it's like some handicap or something like a physical disability, but it's not, because his executive motor skills were off the chain. He was walking at 8 months. 8 months he was walking. I'm talking about stride, not stumble bumble. He was walking at 8 months. So I'm thinking, I ain't nothing wrong with myself. But she was insistent. She was like, she said he doesn't communicate. She said something's just not right. So we went into this program called Babies Can't Wait, which I think is still around. I'm not sure. But anyway, the lady's name was Ellen Day. She got us in touch with to get him evaluated to Marcus Center. And he was 2 at the time, too. Which is, I tell people all the time, early intervention is the absolute key to the quality of life that child will have. And so we went to the Marcus Center, and for a while, he was doing stuff that, at the time, the guideline for autism was, if he's doing this, and this, he's not autistic. But if he can't do this, and this, then he's autistic. So now when he's doing a lot of this and just some of this. So they say, well, we don't want to call it autism right away. What we're going to call it is PDD, which is called pervasive developmental disorder, because he was displaying some signs that were on the spectrum. But if he's on the spectrum, then he wasn't supposed to be able to do this, because they watched him, they observed him with a computer. They were blown away too. He was only 7, but again, those 2 hands, he has some of the biggest hands, the biggest hands too. And he would know when he misspelled because he was, and I'm talking about looking up, never looked down. He was always looking up, backspace and all of that. Again, that ain't nobody but God. But there's nobody but God. And so when I first had the diagnosis, I just said, let me find out what this stuff is, what's exactly what we're up against here. And the more I read up on it, trying to immerse myself in it, of course, to the rest of the family, I was to let them know what was going on, what we were up against. And when it got to what we were going to do, what we had to do, we should have about speech therapy because, he had some verbs, some words, but not a huge vocabulary. He could communicate with me. And so there was speech therapy, physical therapy, all of this stuff that, that was going to it again because he was so big. And like I say, his motor skills were fine. At one time, when you looked at the growth chart, at the same age Shaquille O'Neal was, Xavier was bigger than Shaquille O'Neal at one age. I want to say it was 11. He was bigger than Shaquille O'Neal was. Yeah, but the doctor, they always said he was going to be well over 6 foot, and he was, I think, he was 6 foot. But yeah, that diagnosis, it rocked my world. I never would have suspected.
I feel like a lot of parents like shy or the test and all that because we are afraid of the diagnosis itself. Like I've had some parents just did not want to get their kid tested because they didn't want the stigma that comes with the diagnosis. But what do you feel about that?
And that's one of the things I advocate for or against, however you want to look at it. And the pamphlet that the Hope for Xavier Foundation gives out has 10 signs. And I tell people, give me this pamphlet. I said, if you see 2 of them, I said, go get your child tested. Because again, in the African American community, we will reason away in a minute. They'll talk later. They'll get it later. They just taking their time about doing it. And see, and then the next thing you know, they're 7, 8, 9 years old. Now here comes the drugs. Here comes the rhythm. Here comes the other behavioral drugs they put them on. And it doesn't help them. But again, and that's why I preach early intervention. Early intervention. And then, like I said, that'll be mine. So I show off this earth. That'll be whenever I talk to somebody and they think that, because I've had people come to me and I say, even if they're not autistic, you still want to know. You don't want to guess. Again, because the early intervention and the quality of life go hand in hand. The longer you put it off, the harder. And I tell people, when I got diagnosed at 10, I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be very difficult. Question from nothing.
So with ASD, know that the diagnostic criteria is based off of, or has been historically based off of, young Caucasian boys. Right? However, people are learning more recently that it looks very different in girls, especially young Black. Is your organization doing anything to help move things forward to say it may not look like this, right? Because there are a lot of young Black girls, myself being one, that autism is this weak because it doesn't look like what we've been told that it looks like. So, is there something that your organization can do to help push things forward so that people can recognize it in their young girls, especially the young Black?
That's one of the positions I hope that I want to move my organization into, because we had sort of like a rebirth here in the last 3 years. Because I got the new members, but I got great people on board. That's one of the things that we did because we've been asked to come to Mississippi and help some people down there. They want me to bring the organization down there because they're way behind in what you suggested. But even further behind what you're suggesting because And this is no disrespect to anybody that's been in Mississippi, but that's like 1960 now. I'm sorry, it just is. I went through there, me and my wife went through there on our way to Texas. We stopped in there. Them people looked at us like, how dare you come in this, you know, that's Mississippi. So so I can imagine, and it's probably one of the, and I could be wrong, but I think it's probably one of the poorest states. And as far as resources and things of that nature, it's hit or miss. You see what I'm saying? It's hit or miss. But to get to your point about that, letting them know what it looks like and what it doesn't look like, because I think that the numbers now is 1 in every 26 for forwards and 1 in every 30. So it is more prevalent because, go back a little bit, when Xavier was diagnosed, I bought a T-shirt that said 1 in every 88 children will be born with autism. One of them was mine. So I didn't want to find it. 2 years later, it was 1 in 68. And that was why I was like, this thing is trending in the wrong direction. But but you got so much stuff that you're up against because people use the diagnosis that they're not autistic. You see what I'm saying? Those false, you know, so I'm on the spectrum, so I need to get these services. People do that. But you make it, but again, they want to shut down programs and stuff like that because of quote unquote fraud. The old saying, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You just can't. You got to fix that fraud. And that resource can't be cut. If anything, they need to be give it up more. There's a lot that comes from the private sector in that regard, but our government could and should do a lot more than they do for this situation that you're talking about because it's not going to get better. It's not going to get better if we just say, oh well, just because of the cost of doing business. Well, this is just the way it is. But that's not true. And that's a great point that you do, yeah, because and that's why we're trying to get funding so I can have, you know, more workshops, you know, even get my team certified to do stuff like that, you know, so we can just go as a team and hold rallies, not rallies, but hold, you know, workshops and stuff like that, you know, to let people know, hey, be aware of this. Please understand what's going on. It's not just, you know, something that you can just say, nah, it's not that serious. Yes, it is that serious. It really is that serious.
Let's go back a little bit, for the people who are watching, who may be new to you and new to the book and new to the org. Tell us about Hope for Xavier Foundation, how it was created and its mission.
Okay. This is a story within itself. Xavier and I happened to be in the grocery store that was here in Wanda. It was called Save-A-Lot. You know, we were in Save-A-Lot. He and I was walking in, and as it turns out, a former neighbor of mine we used to live right next door. Wanda Lene Emerson. She was on the other aisle. I could hear her son just, you know, I thought he was just having a tantrum, mad because he couldn't get some candy or something. And so we went around there, and she was telling me, and I said, "What's going on?" She said, he's having a meltdown." I said, "Wait a minute, what do you mean meltdown?" She said, "He's autistic." I said, "I didn't know that because they live less than 300 yards from us there. We live less than 300 yards from us. He's autistic." She said, "Yes." And then she was looking at Xavier. She said, "Why is he's so calm and yada yada yada?" And I said, "Well, when was he diagnosed?" And she said he just recently got diagnosed. And I think he might have been about 7. And so she was like, you know, and then so I was telling her about, you know, the market center and all this stuff and therapy and all this stuff that they was doing. And she said, "You got a lot of information." She said, "You know what? You and I ought to start an organization to let people know about this stuff." And that was in 2008. I was like, "Oh, you know what? That's a great idea." But at the time, I'm unemployed. I'm unemployed, getting $375 a week. Unemployment. Rent is $700. So, but be that as it may, I had to choose between hot water and cable because I knew when Xavier was there, I had to have cable. So it was but anyway, as it fast forward, Wanda had lupus, and of course she passed complications of lupus. And my brother Dale went to see her. It was like 3 days before that. Yeah. Like 3 days before she passed. And she asked Dale, she said, has Sam started that organization yet? And Dale said, so now I think he's filed, the state paperwork. He says, I don't think he got it. This is what she said. She said, when I get out of here, this is how strong this lady's faith was. When I get out of here, I'm going to help him start that organization. 3 days later, she passed. So, in honor of one, that's why we started the Wanda Lene Emerson Thompson Memorial Scholarship Award. And so we don't try to make any money off what it is that we do. We just want to help as many people as we can. And we by that scholarship, this little bitty organization, we've given away over $10,000 in scholarship. And you start with that scholarship comes a brand new laptop and a 4-year partnership with us while you're in school to keep her legacy alive. Keep one of the sweetest people you ever want to know. There's some people in this room that can attest to that. Hey, Betty, how you doing? And Lynn, how y'all doing? They can attest to that with the spirit that she had. So I just wanted to keep that alive because, of course, it's about the academic wise. You know, we want people to be smart, but one that has such a heart. We made that one of the criteria too. They had to have the same kind of heart that one that has, the same kind of love for people that one had. And so that was why we started that scholarship. And like I said, with this year, we'll try to. Our goal is to give away 5. We've never given away 5, but our goal is to give away 5 this year. So listen to this. When you buy a T-shirt, buy a book, and things of that nature, that's what that goes for. And of course, the publication, for the package stuff that we give away, that's the only thing that we sell. The T-shirts and stuff like that. Those are merchandise. That they go to fund those organizations. And of course, our black tie game that we have in November, it's starting to get in. That's our biggest fundraiser to help fund it.
I just want to apply for the scholarship.
Right now, the only criteria that we're working on that. The only criteria is to get in touch. We got to go to the website, and when it says get in contact with us, tell us that you're interested in the Wanda Lene Emerson Thompson Scholarship Memorial Award, and we'll tell you how you how you can apply.
Did y'all get that? Go ahead now. Tell somebody that you know.
Yeah, but right now we just go out. Our members just sit around and they know people. See, because we're indifferent. My wife and my the rest, a lot of the members from Jefferson, and then we got people in Lawrenceville as well. Those 3 count areas normally are the ones they knew somebody. I'm trying to change the part here.
Very awesome. You're doing some awesome work. Any questions from the audience before I move forward? Okay. All right. So, starting and leading an organization. I know about that. I know about that. So, tell me what leading this organization has taught you about leadership and personal staff.
That accountability is absolutely key. People have to believe in what you say. People have to trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And they got to believe in the mission that you're going to do. They don't have to be as passionate about it because it's a vision that, it's my vision. And they support it. But that's just something, and sometimes it gets, you get frustrated sometimes, but you have to realize, come on, anybody could have got that. You should have got that. You see what I'm saying? You say it to yourself because you don't want to belittle people. I don't do that. I don't belittle people. But sometimes in my head, I'll be like, that's so simple. Why you get that? But then somebody, and I've heard this all my life, and it still blows my mind. It's still 64, still like, everybody don't get it like you do. I mean, like, what do you mean? Everybody don't get it like you do. What do you mean you don't get it like it? It's that simple. It's simple for you. It ain't simple for everybody. But everybody ain't you. So I still understand that. Yes, man.
I absolutely get it. If you had to give 3 tips to someone else, maybe who's trying to start an organization, a nonprofit, what would those 3 tips be?
One first tip is be prepared to do a lot by yourself. Be prepared to be alone in a lot of your stuff that you got to do. And 2, if you're going to be influenced by an audience by what it is that you believe, then you got to question yourself, do you really believe? So you really got to believe in it, because there's not going to be a lot of times when nobody's cheering you, when there's nobody supporting you. But the mission at hand is always going to be important. It's going to drive you to do whatever it is that you need to do. You got to stand 10 toes down, because people are going to come and go. but those two things, you really have to stand on it and be prepared for it. And it's not easy. It's not going to be easy. But you got to decide, is it worth it? You got to decide if it's worth it, because a lot of people, well, this is too hard. I ain't doing it. The bidding was worth it. That's the advice that I, because there was a time this organization was down to 3 people, me and 2 people. Me and 2 people. But we still managed to give away 2 scholarships that year. Still hold the gala. It was a scaled down version of it, but we still managed to do that. And again, that's nobody but God. God kept making a way. But we kept running up against obstacle after obstacle. But you could hear this voice in your head saying, just keep going. Just keep going. And I can't tell you how important that is, to believe in that higher power. And I tell you, thing I say, if you're going to be great, you got to believe in something greater than yourself. Got to. Got to.
What do you hope readers take away from? He never did.
The one thing I want them to take away from this is that God is in everything. God, none of what you're going through is a surprise, as I said earlier. And that through this strength and perseverance and leaning on Him, it's really what's gotten me to this point, which, through this, because I don't know where I would be without my faith and my wife. And again, I've said this a couple of times to different people, that she doesn't know what to say, because if she did, she would already said it. She would know what to do. She'd already done it. But she always keeps me encouraged, and she'll see me, because I still get in that place, and she'll see me, and she'll say, "Baby, don't give up. Don't give up. We need you. We need you." Don't give up. And my oldest daughter told me that she's been a backbone. She's been a real big support, get college checking on and stuff like that, because that relationship is not what it's supposed to be. Thank God that it is what it is supposed to be. And again, all this comes from Xavier. My whole thing, and I tell people this, a lot of people, some people may not. I really didn't believe in God. Probably stopped believing in God. 16. But when that young man entered my life, I had to tell God that I was out, because there's no way he could be who he was, doing what he do, if there was not a higher power. And so my testimony will always be, if I get to heaven, what that man did to me, how he changed my life. Because again, and I know God said they'll throw it into the sea of forgiveness. But almost every time I pray, I have to say, I'm sorry for my defiance, for my ignorance. Because he was so good to me, to give me. And like I said, we talk about it all the time. God meets you where you are. He knew I was having children out of wedlock. He met me there. Exactly going out of wedlock. Turn this thing around. Pay attention. I get it. And again, my brother, Dale, Hutchins, who's a minister, he would never stop praying for me. He never stopped. And I used to always ask him, because people still thought I went to church because of the kind of person I was. Did you go to church? I said, you a deacon? No, I'm not. This one guy followed me around my job. He kept asking me, you sing in the choir, don't you? No. At the time, I had been in church about 10 years. I just kept walking. He came up to me again. You're a Sunday school teacher. I said, why did you say that? He said, because you seem at peace. And I asked my brother, I said, why do people? He said, it's because of the way you carry yourself. That's why people, and he said, you'll get it. He said, you don't get it, you'll get it. And then having a conversation with him. And I don't know if you, I don't, I don't know if you remember this conversation or not, but this is what flipped, this is what helped flip that switch for me. And I said, I just don't understand why good people suffer. I don't understand it. If there's a force, if there's a being that can stop that, and won't stop it, and still allows it, I don't want to meet that person. I don't want to meet that being. And Dale said, you're confusing the will of man with the will of God. I don't know if you remember that, Dale, but that started. That was the year before Xavier was born. Because he and I were very proud of him. That, when he said that, I was like, wow. I've been looking at it all. I had been looking at it all wrong. When Xavier was born, and of course, the autistic diagnosis, the relationship that he had had for 32 years and 11 days, God. Yeah.
I feel like when you said people would assume you were going to church on it, it just made me think that church is something that you do, that your relationship and your love for God, you know, and you know, so you're walking around and you're in it, no matter what you look
And
to God.
my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she used to always tell me that. Because she was like, God this and God that. And I'm like, you say so. You know, that was my response. You say so. And I she's like, ain't no way you can be the kind of person you are and not believe in God. And I said, what are you talking about? I'm just being who I am. She said, but you're too nice. She said, Sam, you don't curse, you don't drink, you don't smoke. She said, the only thing you do is fornicate. She said, but other than that, she said, you'll help anybody. She said, you'll give them the shirt off your back. I try to help as many people as you can. So you can't tell me that you don't think stuff. And I just look at her. Then she was like, don't worry about it. She said, God got his hands on it. God got his hands on it. So it's been an interesting journey, you know, getting to me to my senses, so to speak. But again, my brother Dale never stopped praying. You know, that my wife, you know, like I said, then my girlfriend at the time, you know, God got his hands on it. And you could be this kind of person who's not had God in your life. But I wanted to stop her. I used to ask her husband, so what you telling me is that if I ain't nice, I don't get to go to heaven. But I'm being nice and I don't believe in heaven. So what's that mean? And she just looked at me and shook her head. She said, fix it, Jesus. She said, fix it, Jesus. She said, fix it. And another, I gotta say this. This lady believed in me from the time I was 17. Gladys Hutchins. This lady, I did not go through a bad time by myself because she never judged me, even when I was messing up. She always told me the truth. And she said, Sam Hutchins is a good person. I don't care what nobody says. She said, I ain't never heard you fussing. I ain't never heard you raise your voice. And I didn't know you since the 17th. And she called me her son, and I wedding was bad on. But I just got wedding was bad on. But God was putting these people in my life at these times because there were times when family had turned their back, you know, because of, and rightfully so, because I was doing some stuff like that, you know, because they expected more from me, and I feel like I let them down. If I know what you say, it's at your book signing, and you never want to let your mom down. They want me down. So I read that down. And, you know, but you know, people are well, she would be proud of you, but that make me feel really better because at the time I left. And that gets me.
contrary to what I'm about to say, but it's the therapist. At some point, we have to learn to give our. I know you said it doesn't make you feel better when you hear people say,
And I'm gonna be honest with you, if I don't feel it, like I said, they understand what I do. I don't do that. And I've been told that she would be proud of me. And that does nothing to me. That because, I don't take compliments very well. People, say, this and that. And I think I told my wife, if everything that people say about me is true, being this kind of person, I really let them walk that because she saw it. And I paid attention to her. That's something I gotta do with live.
last question.
Okay,
If you think, hey,
I'm sorry. It's too.
appreciate your openness.
Yeah.
Any questions? Oh, you're quiet. Okay.
I have a question. I don't know what it was. And and being vulnerable as a black man, you grew up in the same culture where you shut up for something to cry about. That's way. And writing was therapeutic and helped me to express those feelings. And when you made a song, not your song, your book, he never complains. Is there something at a time like I go back to when you in praying your father and recall something? There's something you could go back and tell that person then that would help a person who's going through something similar like that.
Yeah, I would speak to had to understand about the spiritual side of things. Because we focus so much on that body and it's that spirit. I mean, if people read the book, there's a saying that I say that I quote, and it's from the Master the Fairy Queen, and it says, "Thus the body is formed. Thus the soul is formed, and a body is made. Body is made, so the soul makes." What that means is we're spirit housing. Our body houses that spirit. And so when that body dies, that spirit lives on. That spirit lives on. Um, and I used to be always one of my things that I was always afraid of when it came to Xavier was that because there's a 30-year gap. I'm 30 years older than you, so the math don't math. I'm not. What's going to happen to him when I'm not here? That used to be one of my biggest fears. But then I had to come to that conclusion. You know what? He got to forever before I did. So when I get to forever, he'll be there. So that's what I would tell him to understand that part of it. Because again, at age 1970, ain't no better therapy. You get to figure it out on your own, like you said. Shut up before I give you something to cry about. You want some more? Yeah, it's free. But that is what, because that 8-year-old little 8-year-old Sam comes to visit me. Yeah, he's still hurt. Yeah. Yeah.
So let's lighten the mood a little bit. Humor. Tell me, how has humor played a role in navigating all of the demands of caring for Xavier or even running your organization?
Well, I think humor is a Hutchins trait. I think
I think.
it's so crazy. My daughter, Carlisa, told me you can do stand up. And I said, no, I can't. She said, yes, you are. She said, Dad, you are hilarious. And then I just think when kids tell old people that I don't call that funny. They just picking at you. That's why they picking at me. But then my other daughter, Talisha, she came and stayed with me for about a year. And she said the same thing. I had no idea you were that hilarious. She said, I said, what? She's like, I go to work and tell my coworker, my dad is hilarious. But I think that helps. It's sort of like eases the pain, so to speak, to be able to laugh about stuff. And I don't know where it comes from. I just, because somebody had to, where did you get that from? I didn't sit down and think this. It just came to me, but I think it's one of the things. And the crazy part about it, my brother Dale was the biggest jokester in school. Got him in so much trouble because he would do stuff. Remember when I couldn't tell you. Remember when they went to the leader ball and they were plastic and not glass anymore? Well, everybody didn't get that memo. And so Dan was coming down the hall in high school one day, and he had his 2-liter bottle, and he threw it up in the air, and everybody just scattered. And it was plastic. Of course, he got in trouble because before they had called my mom and all that. But he's just a prankster like that. He was, and they said your brother Dale, and he stayed in trouble. And that's why when people find out he's a minister now, they be like, what? Yeah, Dale was a candidate for chain gang. Alleged. But again, God moved in his life too, and turned everything around for him too. But it's just, I think it's great. I really do. And so I don't think it's in, and the only reason I enjoy land for it. And I think Dale tells his congregation that, I don't know, because every time I go to his church, I was like, well, your brother said this. I think he tells them a story about something that I had done. And then, of course, I get the compliments too. You were wise beyond your years, so your brother said this about you. And one thing I tell people, and I would say this to people, how important family is. Oh my God. My brothers are everything. My siblings are everything to me. And the relationship that I have with all of them, as individual as it is, it means everything. That's what people you got. Somebody you're not talking to, today's a good day. To put it this way, it is no sense in it because if we go, we all gonna go there. We're not gonna get out of here. We're not gonna get out of here. But it's the impressions that you leave on people, the positive that you leave with people that you want to be lasting in. And like I said, if I could have something, if something's on my tombstone, he tried. Just 2 words. He tried. That's it.
Tell us about upcoming initiatives.
Okay. We have coming. It's turning into an annual fundraiser for us. Our Mother's Son Dance, which is going to be September 19th, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. At the Winder Women's Club. Everybody always does, the father-daughter dance, but this is the mother-son dance. When we say mother-son, it can be aunt, nephew, godmother, godson, or just somebody that you care about. That's going to be in September. And November 14th is going to be the day for the Black Tie Gala. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. That's what we put on tuxedos. It's a request. It's not a requirement. But you can't come butt naked and flip flop. But I need you to. But but the tux and all that. That's not a. It's a request. It's not a requirement. We give away prizes. Like we gave away a couple of TVs. Last year we gave away 2 gym memberships that were this trainer. You got a trainer, a nutritionist, and all of this stuff. We gave away 2 of those. So and this year is looking to be a little bit even bigger. Again, all the proceeds from that go to the Wonder Lene Emerson Thompson Memorial Scholarship Award. So that's what's coming up on the rise. And I will let you guys. I'll keep you posted. But we haven't set the date for the next installment of the IEP workshop. But I'll keep you guys informed on that as well, because we don't have a lot of participation in the room, but when I get home and look at it online, because we do everything online, live, and I see comments, from people, asking the questions. That's why it's important to have somebody to monitor the chat, because I would love to answer the questions live, but then I have to go back and, go back and answer, to the best of our can. And like I tell everybody, I am not, don't have a degree. My degree is in criminal justice. Okay, that's what my degree is. But I got a PhD in Xavier Hutchins, and that's why that's what I go by. What he taught me, that lived experience, and I guarantee you, my lived experience is worth anybody. I'll put it up against anybody's degree from any university anywhere. That lived experience that young man gave me.
Now tell us where we can get the book.
Okay. Okay. You can get the book. It's on Amazon. You can type in my pen name, which is Coach Sam, or you can type in He Never Complains, Sam and Xavier, Father and Son's Journey with Autism. I got a couple here for sale here. The shipment didn't come in. I had planned on having more, but Amazon did, for whatever reason, they got, and it's also online at Barnes and Noble. Not in the store. You have to go online, Barnes and Noble, because a lot of people go to Amazon and say, well, I don't have an Amazon account. Go to Barnes and Noble. You don't need an account. Barnes and Noble. And it's another one called Ingram Sparks. It's on those two platforms. And for those of you who don't like to read, the audiobook is coming out in September. Audiobook will be in September, so you can just stick it in and listen to it. You want to read it, listen to it. I would appreciate it if you read it and give me a great review. Well, not a great review, an honest review. An honest review. So give me an honest review. And I'm on my second book. I'm getting ready to write my second book, but I'm in the stage to write a second book too. So, and the thing about it is, I'll tell you, my cousin, I live vicariously through you, because when I was young, I wanted to be a writer. I was like 14, I had a journal. I wrote in every day. And then, of course, life got to life, it stopped. But I always live vicariously through you. She's an author. I wanted to be an author. And this is it inspired me to go on. There's been so many people. Bernard Sims, who sat here in the audience, when he wrote his book, The Southern Awakening. And, we interviewed him on our podcast. It's a Rap and Radio Center podcast of the people. Like, share, and subscribe. I got, due to my inactivity, I've lost almost 200 subscribers. So now I'm down to 9,040, 9,400. I still need to get to 10,000 so I can get that button. But anyway, yeah, I am saying keep plugging. But I would be remiss if I didn't say that, because a lot of people think that I did this all on my own, and I don't, and I'm not doing it because Xavier was a masterpiece. That's how I looked at Xavier. He was a masterpiece, and everything that he got from everybody that was involved in him, he needed, because the reoccurring thing that people always said about Xavier, that is one happy child. They talk about how happy he was, so he needed everything that he got, from my wife, Dawn. He needed everything that he got from my cousin, from his uncle Dale, Alex, his biological mom, Carlene, Talisha, and Dante. Everything, because everybody said, because I was the pushover, because I gave him everything that he wanted. And so a lot of people think that I try to take the credit for everything but I don't. He needed that discipline that he got from his mom. He needed the sternness that he got from Carlene. He needed, the loving that he got. So and Dante was just in awe how big he was. And he could read people's hearts. Because when he first met my auntie, he was sitting right here by his face just lit up. And Pearlie, you too. You too. So, but I just wanted to make sure that, the people understood that he was a masterpiece. Is how I looked at it. Xavier, he was a masterpiece, and everybody had a hand in it. Everybody, whatever we got, whatever we gave, he needed, and he got everything that he needed. And like I said, we educated the community. Like I said, I don't say this trying to brag, but when people started talking about autism, Xavier became the face of autism in this community, because the phone started ringing. I'll say. And so that was, how the hope for Xavier is going to continue to go. I was going to continue to grow, continue to serve this community. And I got to shout out my guy, Reginald Rutledge, because the title of the book actually came from him. But it wasn't about Xavier, it was about me. Because he worked with me for like 14 years, and it was like in about 11 years, he was going on. He said, "You ever gonna write a book?" I said, "I'm too old to be writing books." Same I used to tell my wife, she said, "You ain't too, it's not too late. Not too late. You still write a book." I said, "Write a book." And he said, "If you ever write one," he said, "I got the title for you." I said, "What is it?" He never complained. I said, "What is it?" He said, "Sam, I've been working with you for 11 years. And I see how your face light up when you talk about that boy and the stuff that you do for him." He's I've never heard you complain about anything. He's you just don't you never complain. So when I got to write the book, and I said, Xavier never complained. Xavier never complained. So, and that's where the title of the book came from. So shout out to my guy Reginald Rutt. And like I said, it started. I got to writing books. I think everybody has one book anyway, if they read. It's one. You got one. You got one. But after reading this one, a couple people told me, "You got another book." You got another book. So I started writing another. This one, I'll share the title with you now. It's going to be called Scars That Never Heal, and sometimes splinters. And it'll be about the 4 deaths that impacted my life. My grandfather, with my dad, my mom, my grandfather, and of course, and the splinters will be the other. They impacted me, but not as much. But they did impact me. So it's gonna be a roller coaster ride. Cause there's gonna be some funny stuff in there. There's gonna be some sad stuff in there. Again, my granddad was hilarious. He was actually hilarious. It's gonna be, yeah, it's gonna be so So, and again, I got the right book. Like I said, I live vicariously through you, but I like what I wanted to be. Now I'm doing it. But I will say this: had Xavier not, passed, I probably never would have did it. But to become a writer at this price, I never would have paid it. I never would have paid this price to be a writer. I just never, that. But I understand. I understand. Uh, God had given me an assignment. His assignment was finished. And I'm pretty sure that when he got there, my Lord and Savior said, "Well done." Because he's able to tie up so many loose ends. He got a family back together. The people were speaking. And it was time for me to move on and do what it is that God had always. People always say you always been such a nice person, and I think you said in the forward that you wrote, you said that was the God that people see. And so, and shout out to my pastor, Sylvania Watkins, Great Breakthrough Christian Ministry, and being a spiritual guy that he is, Sylvania Watkins, and my brother Dan, who I can call and talk to about anything. And I know he probably said, "What is he doing now?" About sending videos. And I said, "What are your thoughts? What do you think about this?" And we would start having that discussion. Dale, that strengthens me, and I appreciate it. That strengthens me, and I appreciate it. And I got to give guys, my good friend William. I don't know if you remember this or not, but he used to always ask me because we would be looking at religious programs. We were working at night, and he would always ask, "Hutch, what are you looking for? What are you looking for?" And I would never tell you, but you always knew that I was looking for something. You knew that I was looking for something. You always knew, "What are you looking for?" And I would never say. And I was looking for a reason to believe in God. Idiot guy. But that was it. I thank you so much for coming all the way from Lawrenceville to be down here. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Okay.
Any final words that you want to share before we?
Okay. I just want to thank everybody that's watching, and of course everybody that's in this audience. Miss Betty Wiley, thank you so much. This means a whole lot for you being here. Glenn and Miss Gladys, like I said, I never want to let you down. And I thank you so much for being in my life. 47 years. Better when I was 17, 47 years. It's just been nothing but great for me. And of course, my Aunt Pearline, Carla, and the brainiac of the family over there. She's hiding. And of course, my brother Dale, my wife, Dawn, for being here. And Sherry, and Ellen, I'm gonna tell you something. If support was a picture, that would be the picture, those two right there. They support everything that the Hope Preservation Foundation does. They buy t-shirts, they buy cups, they buy books. And I thank you so much for your support throughout the years. And thank you guys so much for being here. But again, thank you so much for doing it. I really appreciate this. You always have. So any more questions and no more questions? I think that's gonna be the end.
I had a question though,
Okay.
because I had your thing and it ran out of storage. I had to get your wife to open it back up, and I just want to tell you thank you for not coming over there like big piglet. Happening up while she was unlocking your. I thought you're a good man because you just said go ahead.
Got so much. Listen, there's food, fruit tray, drinks, napkins. Take you some of those forks with you. But again, thank you guys so much for coming. And like I said, if anybody wants to purchase a book, I got a couple over here. But there's some t-shirts you can order or you can buy right there, right here, right now. But again, you can go to Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Ingram's Sparks, and purchase online too as well. But I thank you so much. If you got a book you want me to autograph it, by all means, come up and we're gonna take pictures and all that good stuff. I'm gonna put it on the website. So
Oh, good job.
all right. Kill that.
Where you going? Right here.